Most individuals relocate to HOA neighborhoods seeking tranquility, a slower rhythm of life, and a cleaner environment. I moved into one such community with my 9-year-old son, Noah, and his therapy dog, Max, hoping to rebuild our lives. After enduring profound hardship, I never imagined we would find ourselves literally evading gunfire. Even more unthinkable was that the shooter would be a meddlesome woman in a teal cap. Convine said she ruled the cul-de-sac simply because she led a neighborhood committee. One minute, I was unpacking boxes and coaxing Noah to eat a turkey sandwich. The next, our dog lay bleeding in the grass, shot by Susan Harper, who stood on her porch, clutching a smoking rifle and ranting about leash regulations. The anguish of watching Noah's therapy dog suffer was compounded by the knowledge that I had warned the HOA repeatedly about Susan, only to be dismissed with laughter each time. Our story began with hope. Noah and I had recently left the city after a devastating accident. A careless driver had run a red light, crashing into the passenger side of our car. I escaped with a concussion and fractured ribs, but Noah wasn't as fortunate. He spent 6 weeks in the hospital and 6 months in therapy relearning to walk, speak, and trust the world. Nightmares plagued him almost nightly. That's when Dr. Patel recommended a therapy animal. We adopted Max, a gentle Labrador retriever with a wise, serene demeanor. Within weeks, Noah's smile returned, his nightmares eased, and he even began to laugh again. So, when we purchased a modest 2-story home in what seemed like a peaceful HOA neighborhood, we felt optimistic. The house boasted a fenced yard, quiet streets, and space for Max to roam. Noah dubbed it the haven of almost solitude and insisted Max have a dog bed in every room. For about a week, things looked promising. Then we met Susan. She didn't greet us with a warm welcome or a plate of brownies. Instead, she materialized while I was unloading groceries and demanded, "Is that dog registered with the HOA?" Holding a bag of oranges, I blinked and replied, "He's a registered CERVYC animal, certified under the ADA." She scrutinized Max as though he were a menace, despite his wagging tail and clearly marked vest. HOA policy mandates approval for all animals, no exceptions. "You'll need to submit the proper forms," she declared. Assuming she was merely officious, I printed Max's documentation, submitted it that day, and considered the matter resolved. I was mistaken. The following week, a notice appeared on my door. Dog sighted off-leash in front yard, violation 3.2, due law 50 fine. Max had never been off-leash. My camera footage confirmed he'd been within our fenced yard the entire time. I emailed the HOA response. I left a voicemail, no reply. Then came a second fine for excessive barking. Max rarely barked unless a bird dared perch on our fence. I dismissed it with a wry chuckle. The third fine cited damage to HOA property. Max had brushed against a flower pot at the park entrance without even knocking it over. It felt like a game, or perhaps a personal crusade. Susan began shadowing us on walks, trailing 30 feet behind with a clipboard. Once, I caught her filming us from behind a shrub. Just gathering documentation, she snapped when I confronted her. I shielded Noah from it, determined to keep his world serene and secure, but even he noticed. "Why does that lady hate Max?" he asked one afternoon, his small hands gripping Max's fur. "Some people are just cranky," I replied, forcing a smile. But the situation escalated from irritating to alarming when Max barked at Susan during a walk, not a growl or a lunge, just a single alert bark as she emerged abruptly from behind a hedge. She shrieked as if assaulted, dropped her latte, and yelled, "That dog is dangerous. I'll report this." I didn't believe she'd take it further. I was wrong. That evening, a certified letter from the HOA arrived, declaring that due to continued aggression, Max was deemed a threat to community safety and must be removed within 14 days. It included fabricated incident reports signed by anonymous residents. Susan's fingerprints were all over it. I called the HOA straight to voicemail. I consulted the ADA hotline. They had said documenting everything. I installed additional cameras. A week passed, and Noah began regressing, waking up crying and clinging to Max. We invented bedtime stories featuring Max as a superhero, complete with a cape and sunglasses, desperate to preserve Noah's fragile stability. Then came the morning that shattered everything. It was a bright day, birds chirping, Noah giggling as Max chased a toy in our fenced yard. I was flipping pancakes in the kitchen when a sharp crack split the air. Not a firework, not a backfire, but a gunshot. I raced outside. Max lay near the fence, bleeding, his vest shredded. Noah stood frozen, screaming. Susan stood 20 feet away on her porch, rifle in hand, eyes blazing. He charged me. That animal charged at me, she shrieked, pointing at Max, who couldn't have it. He was behind our fence. Neighbors emerged, phones in hand. Someone dialed the police. I dropped beside Max, hands drenched in blood, shouting for help. Amid the chaos, as sirens neared and Susan ranted about rules, one truth crystallized. She hadn't just shot our dog, she'd fractured something we'd only begun to mend. No ambulance came for Max. Emergency services don't respond to animals, no matter the stakes. I loaded him into the back seat myself, one hand pressing his wound, the other steering. Noah sat beside him, pale and silent, clutching Max's paw. We sped to the emergency vet, hazards flashing, horn blaring. The staff whisked Max away before I could park. Blood stained my shirt, hands, and steering wheel. Noah remained mute. The vet said the bullet had shattered Max's shoulder, but missed vital organ. She had a chance if they operated swiftly. I signed forms blindly and sat with Noah in the lobby, trembling. Back home, the police had arrived after a neighbor, Clara, called them. I wasn't there, but my door camera later revealed Susan on her porch, rifle beside her, spinning a tale of Max leaping the fence and charging her. A few neighbors nodded tepidly, most looked appalled. One, Mr. Grayson, muttered, "That dog didn't even bark at cats." The police took statements, examined the scene, and confiscated the weapon but didn't arrest her. Officer Reed called me in the vet lobby, saying they'd opened an investigation and needed my account. I agreed to talk once Max was out of surgery. Noah refused to leave the waiting room that night, curling up on my lap as he had at 5. At 2 a.m., the vet emerged, gloves bloody, with good news. Max had survived vet surgery. Pins stabilized his leg, months of rehab lay ahead, but he'd live. I wept into Noah's hair as he finally cried too. The next morning, we returned to a dead neighborhood. An HOA note awaited, announcing an emergency meeting to address the incident, urging us to attend with documentation. No apology, no mention of Max's injury, just cold bureaucracy. Inside, Noah avoided his bedroom, curling up in Max's crate with a toy. I scrubbed blood from the car, hands shaking. At the HOA meeting in the clubhouse, 20 residents sat in folding chairs, sipping lemonade like spectators at a recital. Susan presided in a floral dress and earrings, exuding authority. I entered, dropped a binder of Max's ADA papers on the table, and declared, "Max is a federally registered service animal. What happened was criminal." Susan smiled thinly. "Mr. Carter, we value your enthusiasm, but we're concerned for community safety. Multiple neighbors have reported your dog's behavior. Clara stood. He's never done anything wrong. I pass that house daily, doesn't even bark at me." Murmurs of agreement followed. Susan's smile faltered. "Some may not grasp subtle threats," she sniffed. I handed over a flash drive with yard footage showing Max behind the fence and Susan aiming her rifle before he neared. Gasps rippled through the room. She pivoted to leash laws and prior complaints. I raised my voice. "You shot my son's service animal through a fence and now hide behind paperwork." Post-meeting, whispers of support emerged, though fear of Susan's decade-long reign lingered. That night, Noah had a panic attack, waking screaming for Max, terrified she'd return. I called a trauma therapist and a lawyer, Laura Bennett. After hearing the story, Laura grinned. "She shot a service dog, and the HOA covered it? That's not a Casey, it's a jackpot." Laura moved swiftly, filing an ADA complaint with the Department of Justice and preparing a CIVYL suit. The neighborhood turned tense. Some neighbors offered quiet support, others stayed neutral. Then Clara's surveillance footage surfaced, showing Susan pacing with her rifle, muttering, "I'll fix this damn dog problem today," before firing. Laura texted, "She's done." The lawsuit went public, targeting Susan and the HOA for emotional distress, destruction of medical equipment, and negligence. News spread, and Max became an ADA icon. Donations funded his recovery. Noah got letters from kids with therapy dogs. Susan's leaked footage sealed her fate online and in court. In trial, Laura demolished Susan's defense. A subpoenaed HOA voicemail revealed Susan threatening, "I'm done with Carter's kid and his mutt. If the HOA won't act, I will." The jury awarded us damages, vet costs, and forced HOA policy reform. Susan vanished post-verdict, her influence crumbled. Later, she was arrested for staging a car vandalism to frame me, cementing her downfall. Her house sold, and I turned a nearby lot into Max's park, a therapy garden. Noah cut the ribbon, Max beside him, tail wagging. We'd found peace not from brochures, but from standing firm. Justice prevailed, and we're never looking back.